coming to you from a basement studio somewhere down under. It's the 80s Show with Australia's Retro Man. On tonight's show, Retro Man takes a look at the great movie song Hot and Cold from Weekend at Bernie's. Well, what are we waiting for? Lights, camera, Retro Man!
G'day viewers, Retro Man here and welcome to the 80s Show. Now in this episode I'll be talking about a great movie song from 1989. The name of the song is Hot and Cold, the singer is Jermaine Stewart, and it's from the movie Weekend at Bernie's, that hilarious black comedy starring Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman. Now I refer to Bernie's as a black comedy because the two guys spend almost the entire film carrying their dead boss around. They're taking him everywhere. They take him in a boat. They just, they tie their legs together with shoelaces, and Bernie's goes everywhere with these guys. And it's a real riot of a film. I'm sure you've seen it, and it's become a bit of an 80s classic, a cult movie, if you will. Now, the song Hot and Cold is performed by Jermaine Stewart, and he had a bit of a career in the 80s. In fact, he began life as a Soul Train dancer. If you've ever seen that TV series Soul Train, that's what Jermaine Stewart was up to. He was dancing on that program, and then he tried to make it in the music industry in the 80s, and he all of a sudden came across Boy George and the Culture Club and established a bit of a friendship with them, and they put in a bit of a recommendation for Jermaine with Arista Records, and then next minute Jermaine started getting his music out. Now, one of his most famous songs from 1986 was called We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, and then again in 1987 he had another song that made a bit of a ripple called Say It Again from the album of the same name. Now, Jermaine also contributed a song to the Perfect soundtrack. Do you remember that film? Starring John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis. It was an aerobics film full of hot and steamy scenes, and Jermaine's song Wear Out the Grooves was something really special. I'm sure you remember it if you remember that film. It took place over an aerobics scene, and Jermaine was slowly making a name for himself. So by about 1989, he managed to do this song called Hot and Cold, which became the theme song of Weekend at Bernie's. Now, the song was produced by Richard Rudolph and Michael Sembello. I'm sure you've heard of Sembello. He was the guy that gave us Maniac, which was the song from the legendary Flashdance soundtrack. So anyway, Jermaine Stewart rode a little bit of a wave there in the 80s, and he had this great song called Hot and Cold. And Hot and Cold is one of those songs which, it's an infectious song. It makes you think of the beach and sunshine and the summertime. It makes you want to go out there and have fun with your friends. And the funny thing is that I always wanted to get my hands on this song, because, as I said, there was no soundtrack for the film and it came out as a 45 record, but for some reason down under I couldn't buy it. I didn't see it in any of the shops. So I waited till around 1990 when Bernie's came out on VHS, and what did I do? I got my trusty cassette player and I recorded the song on cassette. That was the only way I could do it, recording it from the movie with the dialogue intact, and therefore I had the song on cassette and I would play it and drive friends crazy and all the rest of it. But it's a good song. I'm sure you know the song, and I'm sure you like the song. The song is synonymous with the film Weekend at Bernie's. Immediately when you think of Bernie's, you think of the song. Some like it hot, some like it cold. You know what I'm talking about. So that's just how it goes, guys. Some Like It Hot is not the title. It's Hot and Cold. It's by Jermaine Stewart, and it's from Weekend at Bernie's in 1989. Now, that's what I call a great movie song. And if you ever want to know what happened to Jermaine Stewart, well, his career kind of petered out during the 90s. He had an album, actually, that was unreleased, and another false start with another song. And sadly, by the end of the 90s, he passed away from AIDS. So that was the end of Jermaine in the 90s, but his song Hot and Cold from Weekend at Bernie's lives on. It's a great song. In fact, the amazing thing is it was a very, very astute marketing ploy. They actually released trailers for the film with this song blaring, and actually it was the song that made me want to see the movie. What they would do was they attached all these funny little scenes, particularly them in the speedboat with Bernie hanging out the back, and they put this Hot and Cold all over it, and they ran these commercials, and hey, you love the song and you immediately wanted to see the film. So it was genius marketing. So that's what makes Hot and Cold a great movie song. So I'm sure you remember it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think of Hot and Cold? Tell us in the comments below, guys. I want to hear about it. In the meantime, enjoy your 80s movies. Actually, tell us what you think about Weekend at Bernie's. I think it's an absolute classic. It's a comedic gem from the 80s. I mean, who doesn't like Weekend at Bernie's with Andrew McCarthy, Jonathan Silverman, and of course, Catherine Mary Stewart living it up while they're taking this guy around, Bernie, who's actually dead, and everyone thinks he's alive. It's ingenious, it's a great comedy, and that's just how it goes, guys. It was the 80s, it was loads of fun, and Bernie's is one of those films, and Hot and Cold is one of those songs. That's it, guys. That wraps it all up. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for watching today's episode of Great Movie Songs. I will be back again. This is Retro Man, living the dream, 80s style. Stay gold.
Thanks for watching. Retro Man will return faster than a boomerang and more alive than Bernie. Please subscribe and good night, viewers.